My name's Mike. I'm a 45-year-old divorced single guy, working as a contract employee at a real estate company. That's my status in a nutshell. When I put it into words like that, I don't sound like much, but my colleagues don't seem to think too poorly of me. However, my immediate boss, Karen, seems to dislike me. She's a young, beautiful career woman, seemingly in her early 30s, which makes her a whole decade younger than me. She's about to marry her handsome, elite boyfriend, and she really seems to have it all. From her perspective, I guess a guy like me who isn't getting ahead must be incomprehensible. I feel it painfully in her usual demeanor toward me. When I and a full-time colleague ask for the same thing, her response is blatantly different. But I guess that's just the way it is. I wasn't particularly bothered by it since it didn't interfere with my work. But then, one day, something happened. What exactly did you learn in college? Karen's harsh attitude wasn't only towards me. She was tough on those who weren't performing well and the new hires, especially the young women. That day, she was scolding a new employee, Emily. While hitting Emily's desk repeatedly with documents, Karen yelled, "Do you even care about your job making such basic mistakes? I'm sorry, but I did it the way I was instructed to. Making excuses, that's pretty bold for a newbie." Karen's shouting filled the entire office floor. Don't think just because you're young you can get away with anything. I don't think that. Maybe she was in a bad mood today. Her words seemed harsher than usual, and it was uncomfortable to listen to. Seeing Emily about to cry, I felt sorry for her and stood up to block Karen's view. I was already disliked by Karen. I wasn't scared of her in the least. Do you really need to be so harsh? Emily is a new employee. It's a manager's job to explain things properly, isn't it? Karen snorted at me, defending my colleague. That's none of your business. It is my business. Emily is on the same team. Then you are complicit. How are you going to take responsibility for this mistake? Karen threw the documents at me. It was a contract and estimate that Emily apparently had made following Karen's instructions. I looked at the documents closely. Is something wrong with them? Karen let out an exaggerated sigh. This is the problem, you see. Contract employees just don't get it. The phrasing in the earnest money section of the contract is odd, isn't it? And the commission calculation is wrong. Is it this part here? When the other party commences the execution of the main contract, is that right? Yes, it's supposed to be when one of the parties. Can't you read the clauses properly? It's exasperating. The civil code changed, you know. Hearing that changed her complexion. It was amended in 2020. Maybe you didn't notice because only the wording changed. That's correct, right? I looked at Emily, and she nodded. I revised it because the senior next to me said so. I think the commission calculation is correct, too. For a $40,000 deal, isn't it 3% plus $600? It's 4% plus $200 for anything over $40,000, so it's not a mistake. Upon hearing those words, Karen froze. There were snickers coming from the floor, barely concealed. Emily hasn't made any mistakes, has she, Karen? She said nothing. Emily spoke up hesitantly. I'm really okay, so, what do you mean it's okay? Are you trying to show you're not mad? Think you're being the bigger person? Karen's eyes sparked with a fierce flame again. It seemed she had been angered. She slammed the desk with force and stormed out. Did I just make things worse? Sorry, Emily. No, thank you for standing up for me. She got a bit of a telling off, but hopefully, that's the end of it. But it wasn't. Being corrected in front of everyone seemed to have really gotten under her skin. The next day, the subtle harassment started. It wasn't anything overt, just petty stuff that even high school girls wouldn't bother with. My chair was adjusted to its lowest setting. Tissues disappeared from my desk. My computer wallpaper was randomly changed, and I was somehow left off the happy hour attendance list. Each incident was trivial and didn't affect my work, but the accumulation made me jittery about what might come next. I wanted to yell "grow up," but the antagonist was a much younger woman who also happened to be my boss. I hesitated, of course. Today, I found mustard smeared inside the rim of my mug. If Emily hadn't made my tea and warned me it's a yellow mug, I would have had a mouthful. That was a close call. I'm so sorry about all this. Emily apologized. If you hadn't defended me that time, you wouldn't be going through this. It's my fault. She looked down, on the verge of tears. It's not your fault at all. In a way, it's for the best. I've never liked Karen's tyrannical ways, and I couldn't stand to watch a young person being yelled at for no good reason. I just couldn't ignore it. It's just some self-satisfaction for this old man, so don't you worry about it. I tried to play it cool in my own way. Emily looked surprised for a moment but then smiled. You're a good person, Mike. I'm often told I'm too accommodating. I said in a joking tone, and she gave a small laugh, looking into my eyes. From then on, Emily and I talked a lot. Despite the age difference, we clicked oddly well as the underdogs at work. Emily really is a good kid. Always serious about her work, with a desire to learn. She may not be as capable as Karen, but she has a charm that draws people in. It would be great if someone like her could become a leader. Every time I talked to her, that's how I felt. Meanwhile, Karen's petty harassment continued, but I got used to it and could let it roll off me. In fact, Karen seemed more frustrated with my resilience than anything. I really wished she would just get over it. One day, Karen was unusually energetic from the morning. I've got a big meeting with a client this afternoon, so I'll be out, she said with her eyes sparkling. I heard from a colleague that it was a big deal with the president coming in, and if the contract went through, it would mean big profits. It was a surefire promotion for Karen, so it made sense she was all in. Her personality might be problematic, but her professional skills were solid. There shouldn't be any issues. We sent her off with our best wishes. A few hours after Karen left, she contacted me. Hey Mike, can you come over here right now? What? Where are you at the moment, Karen? I'm at AB Construction, our business negotiation partner. Get over here now. Karen's voice was full of irritation, and with those words, the call ended. AB Construction is Karen's business negotiation partner. Why am I being called? Filled with questions and anxiety, I headed to AB Construction. My name is Karen. I work in a real estate company. I must say, being in my early 30s and already holding a position with responsibilities, I consider myself quite an elite in this company. In my personal life, I've never been without a man, and I'm currently engaged to a high-caliber, fantastic guy. My life is on a smooth sailing path. The only shadow cast is perhaps by my subordinates, especially a man named Mike. He's the biggest issue. At 45, he's still a contract employee and single. He's apparently divorced, and I'm sure it's because he was the problem. His work isn't bad, but he lacks initiative. Yet, he has the nerve to give me, of all people, advice and criticism. Just the other day, while I was coaching a new employee, he had the audacity to butt in and point out my mistake. Like poking at the corner of the box. He's exactly what you'd call a nuisance. It's infuriating that such a problematic middle-aged man dares to have an opinion. Anyways, it's clear to me that he's the cancer of our department. Yet, do you have an employee named Mike? The president of AB Construction, our mega project partner, mentioned his name out of the blue. I couldn't hide my surprise. Yes, he's a contract worker, but what about him? That contract worker, Mike. the president said with a smile and a nod. He helped out a lot with a previous real estate contract. I hear from my staff. They say he's quite capable. That's why I want him on this project. I was astonished. This must be what they call a bolt from the blue. But he's just a contract worker. It doesn't matter, does it? He works the same hours, and if he's capable, his position isn't an issue. True, you're right, but I desperately racked my brain. I didn't want to hand over such a major project to someone like Mike. Besides, it's unthinkable for me, the manager, not to handle it and leave it to a mere contract worker. I tried everything to make him reconsider using Mike. I might have exaggerated a bit, but it was mostly the truth. If the president could understand that he's not the right person for this project, that would be enough. I should be the only one in charge of this project. Thanks for telling me so much about him. Anyway, could you call Mike for me? The president didn't take my side. Reluctantly, I decided to call Mike. Arriving at AB Construction, I was led to a conference room. What could possibly be the reason for me being called? I've helped with some work related to AB Construction before, but there were no issues, as far as I remember. No complaints, and I hadn't messed up anything. With questions and anxiety, I knocked on the conference room door. It's Mike. Come in. As I nervously opened the door, I locked eyes with Karen, my boss, who had a stern look on her face. I hesitated, then turned to greet the president of AB Construction. I couldn't help but exclaim out loud. The man sitting in front of me, dressed in a sharp black suit, was someone I knew. The president smiled warmly and said, "I thought it was you. Long time no see, Mike." Alex. What? Sitting there was my ex-wife's brother, Alex. I remembered hearing that he worked in construction, but I never imagined he'd be the president, especially of such a major company. It's been a while since you and my sister split up. I was worried you had fallen ill. I was surprised to see your name. Glad to see you're doing well. Are you completely recovered? Yes, about 2 years ago. Alex was smiling, but Karen still had a look of fear. What's this all about? Just as you heard, he's my sister's ex-husband. Wait, I don't think it's appropriate to put him in charge just because he's your former brother-in-law. No, it's a coincidence. I named him because my staff told me he was skilled. Only after did I realize it was him, and I was quite surprised myself. But as I said before, even if he's skilled, he's just a contract worker. I can't imagine such a middle-aged man handling a big job. Maybe he's the reason your sister divorced him. Karen was getting agitated. Alex sighed deeply and looked at her. Look, whether someone is a contractor or a full-time employee doesn't dictate their ability to work, nor is it your place to speculate about the cause of their divorce. Karen fell silent, obviously frustrated. The things you were saying about him earlier were pretty harsh. A person who spreads false rumors and speaks ill cannot be trusted. I can't work with you. What? Karen, I'm sorry, but you're off the project. Her face turned pale. She looked like she was about to collapse, the blood draining from her face. Please wait, sir. This was probably her first stumble. Karen tried to defend herself, but Alex was cold. From here on, I'll discuss with Mike. You can leave. She left the room, looking defeated. I had never seen Karen with such an expression before. Afterward, Alex and I talked about many things, not just work. About what happened after my ex-wife and I divorced. We separated when I fell seriously ill. I had received a terminal diagnosis and didn't think I had long left. I couldn't bear to have her waste her youth on me. Luckily, we didn't have any children, and I convinced her to leave, though she was reluctant. It was a relief for me too, honestly. Eventually, I went into remission, and here I am, though I've gotten older. Being a contract employee is partly due to my circumstances. How's Jessica doing now? Well, sadly, she's in the hospital right now. What? Since the divorce, I hadn't seen her. I was too consumed with my own illness to think of anything else. I was taken aback by Alex's words. Can I visit her in the hospital? When I asked Alex, he smiled sadly and said, My sister, she doesn't really remember much. What? Alex explained that after our divorce, my ex-wife had an accident, hit her head badly, and ended up with memory issues. She hardly remembers anyone except her parents and brother, with just a faint memory of time spent with her family. It might just be painful for you to see her. Despite his warning, I promised to visit her in the hospital the following Sunday. After wrapping up the business talk, I left AB Construction. On the train ride back to the office, I dreaded the potential backlash from Karen, but I was glad to have reconnected with my brother-in-law and to know that the acquisition of the major project was a result of my past work, unrelated to that reunion. Then, a few months later, I received the President's Award for securing the major deal and was promoted from a contract worker to a full-time employee, taking on a managerial position. My subordinate, Emily, has been excelling under my guidance and is now working vigorously. Karen, having been quite shaken by that day's events, surprisingly left the company. I heard a rumor that her fiancé broke it off and she became distrustful. People say that she's now living like a recluse at her parents' house. Oh, look at the time. I need to hurry and buy a cake for Jessica. Now, on my days off, I regularly visit the hospital. Not for my health. To see my ex-wife, who's admitted there. Of course, with her lost memory, she doesn't recognize me or recall the past when she sees my face. So now, I'm getting to know her all over again, this time as a friend. We get along well, just as we did when we were married. I've regained my health and secured a stable job. Now, I'm in a position to take care of her. Life is just beginning. I hurried to Jessica, imagining her enjoying the cake.